Welcome to Retiring Today, the podcast that guides you to and through retirement. I'm Molly Nelson, host of the podcast, here with Richelle Smith. She's the producer of our podcast. And Loren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner, a certified financial fiduciary, and a retirement income certified professional. Also with us today, Clint Huntrods. He is an investment advisor representative at Merkle Retirement Planning. Today we want to talk about a recent study that finds many people fear retirement more than death. We want to talk about what you can do to face your retirement fears and enter this stage of life with confidence. So, Clint, it's your first podcast, so right out of the gates, we're going to really initiate you here.
Welcome, Clint.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, because right out of the gates, we want to get to know you. Let's all talk about what scares us. What are you frightened of? Clint, you ready?
This might catch you off guard a little bit, but my answer is quicksand.
Oh, wow.
Tell us more. Quicksand.
It's not really as big of a deal now, but when I was a child, I just think I had this idea in my mind that quicksand was going to be a lot bigger concern in life than it has turned out to be.
Oh.
So have you ever had a personal experience with quicksand?
There was once quicksand in kind of the property behind my parents, and a caterpillar started to sink in it. But that's, I think, the only time I've actually seen quicksand-like property in my life.
In real life, does this quicksand fear change any of your habits now here into your adulthood?
No, I actually had to kind of remember it as I thought back to, okay, what scares me, what concerns me.
Successfully overcome your fears. When's the first time you were exposed to quicksand? Cartoons? That's probably what I remember.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
I have to imagine that's where it came from
Yes.
originally.
What were you? Yeah, we were.
I think it was Scooby-Doo. See, I grew up on Scooby-Doo after school. I think it started at 3:30, maybe 4, maybe it was right after He-Man.
Okay, all right.
And that's my first memory of learning about quicksand was Scooby-Doo. I had very similar fears when I was very young, yes.
Yeah, when you're 7 or 8, you think there's going to be a lot of quicksand in my life ahead of me.
That's right.
They're preparing
That's right.
me.
At this point in our lives, we look back and say, well, that wasn't really as big of a deal as I thought it could have been.
Yes.
Oh, well, I have a real fear that actually is a fear that isn't something that
Quicksand is real.
was set up by a cartoon. I do not like heights.
Okay.
I am afraid of heights, but I'll tell you about this really weird thing that happens to me. There was one time I got on a ski lift in Canada, and it was like, again, an open ski lift where like at any moment you can open the bar and go down. And we were in the highest peak in Canada, okay? And you go from like peak to peak in the ski lift. And I did it. And I don't know how or why I even got on it. Cole wanted to do it, so I did it. Now, I did it, survived. Obviously, I'm still here today. But if I start thinking about it, the fact that I did it, that's where the real now anxiety. I can't at night if I can't sleep and I somehow get Canada in my brain, I have to go to another place. It's the weirdest thing, and I survived it.
You can feel similar anxieties what you had.
Yes,
way back
it's
when.
like I'm on the ski lift and I'm there, and I keep thinking, why did you do that?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. By the way, the view up there. I mean, we could see mountains for miles.
Wow.
So I'm kind of glad I did it, because now I can say I was on it. But those heights, and that when you can actually drop out, that's scary.
So did that help you overcome your fear of heights at all, or you're still very
We're at
fearful
the
of
Embassy
heights?
Suites this weekend, and all my kids know that at an Embassy Suites, they have the open middles,
Yeah.
I walk next to the hallway up against the wall, and my kids, those little stinkers, they like to get by the railing, and they're like, Mom, I'm by the railing. And I said, we all walk by the walls, remember? They're not scared of heights because they're kids, and they're not scared of heights. So they like to tease me a little bit, but.
Am I next? As everyone turns to look at me. Okay. My fear is street drains.
Oh.
Thanks to my grandmother, who had me watch the movie It when I was like 4 or 5. She was like, look, a clown movie. And I was like, cool, yeah. And then, it lures children into the street drains.
And another one of those fears is I just wanted to break it to you, there are no clowns in street drains.
I know. But I would always avoid them walking home from school. I was like, nope. Staying away from that.
I feel like parents make great decisions with movie choices. I had a very similar experience growing up. We lived in the country, surrounded by cornfields. Surrounded by cornfields. And our parents had us watch Children of the Corn.
Perfect.
Have you guys seen that movie?
Oh, I know of it. I know of it.
Very, very young, watched that movie.
Good. Nice
Couldn't
move.
sleep for weeks.
Well, if you are heading through retirement, there are sleepless nights. We know that. Clint and Loren, you sit down and you talk to people who are getting ready to retire. And Loren, this fear of what's to come, it's a real fear.
It's a real fear, and one of the biggest concerns that most people have going into retirement, or at least this is what they tell Clint and I when we're in these very first visits, is do they have enough? Are they going to run out of time before they run out of money? But then we start talking and find out there's a lot of other concerns, a lot of other fears that they have as well, like long-term care, or when they do pass away, are their kids and grandkids going to be okay? Can they contribute to enhancing their financial security in any way possible? There's this big thing called a retirement tax bill that once they really discover how big that retirement tax bill could be, that is a fear and a concern of people. So I think it's a world, a vastly unknown world, because most people only retire once. And whenever you are looking to make a big transition into a vastly unknown world, that by itself is very scary. And there's a lot of moving parts that people are just not familiar with, and that all adds to the anxiety and the fears going into this thing that we call retirement.
Let's talk a little about this study. Some eye-opening stuff here. So Zeddy did this study. Zeddy is a professional business kind of job placement, resume building website. And they talked to 800 Americans. 40% of respondents who feared retirement agreed that it scares them more than death itself. What do you guys think of that?
That's serious.
Very.
That's serious. I mean, death is pretty final. There's no coming back from that, I believe. Should we start talking about that?
We might find out. That's another podcast, I feel like.
It's pretty final, where retirement should be something that you look forward to. I mean, because we do. Most people look forward to a day where they have more control. You have more control, more flexibility in your daily schedule. That's really what retirement is, whether you're still working part-time or full-time at a different endeavor, or you're not working at all. It's freedom and flexibility, and most people look forward to that. So to be on the doorsteps of retirement, a couple years away, maybe even a year away, or in some cases with some of the studies, 40 years away, and thinking that you are really afraid of retirement more so than death itself, that's not a great place to be.
Clint, what did you think when you saw these numbers?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the fear of the unknown, and that's something that we hear all the time. We sit down with a new family and they say, I really don't know what I don't know. The biggest thing that they're starting to comprehend is there's a whole lot of moving parts in retirement, and they're really not sure what the right decision is to make. You know, we also talk about the 60s as the decisions decade, and you start to think about all the different things that are in front of you. You know, that's where a lot of that fear, that anxiety, similar to your fear of heights, Molly, starts to come into play, as this feels like something I'm just not prepared for.
Men are more likely than women to be more scared of retirement than death. 44% of men versus 36% of women.
Well, that's easy. Us men are just chickens. Women are very strong and fearless after all the things that women have to go through during their lifetimes.
Okay.
Number one, putting up with us.
Yes.
Men, so
okay, yes.
That one makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, I think that's the smartest thing you said on this podcast, Richelle. What do you think?
I agree.
And also 47% of the respondents feared retirement more than poor health. So again, if they're asking you about death, poor health, you fear retirement more than that. Let's break down what people are actually scared of, because this is really telling, guys, and I think it speaks to what you hear when you're first talking to people in those 15-minute retirement checkup calls, when you're first, having those conversations, and what we know to be true from visits that we have with people. So the sum of all these fears, 87% of people, their fear is having a lack of income in retirement.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to see how not having an income plan can really give you a lot of anxiety. If you start to think about the potential for what Social Security look like, how do I make up that traditional paycheck that I'm used to from the different sources that are out there? One thing that came up in the study was the lack of pensions that are definitely a shift away from those. So then Social Security becomes a big portion of it. You combine that with a lot of people demonstrating in this study that they haven't saved as much as they would like to. There's a real shortfall there, which provides some of that anxiety and some of that just really overall concern for how do I pay my bills and cash flow my lifestyle needs in retirement.
You bring up a good point that I think a lot of the people listening can relate to is that income piece, and the pensions are going away. We still talk to a lot of families who have to make pension decisions, but retirement is not the same as it used to be. It used to be your pension, your Social Security, maybe some savings, boom. But Loren, it's on the common investor more and more to save for retirement and take the steps.
You can't rely upon the corporation that you've worked for 40 years to supply the lifetime of income that you're going to need in retirement. A lot of that is because you probably haven't worked for the same corporation for 40 years. Many people are switching jobs every 5 to 10 years, and companies have gone away from providing those corporate pensions. I mean, I think there's only about 15% of retirees or pre-retirees that have access to a corporate pension, which means that's about 85% of us who have to kind of fend for ourselves and go through the course of our accumulation years and live the lifestyle that we want. Help plan for our kids, maybe help put them through college, but then at the same time put some money away for a time when we're not going to work. I think there's a lot of psychology to feelings, and certainly I think that comes out when we look at these studies. The income one, to me, makes a lot of sense because if we look at maybe the last 10 years that people work, that's probably their highest earned income years. And a lot of their financial security, and I've learned this through talking with many people over the last 20 years, doesn't come from this nest egg that they've put together. You know, if you have $1 million saved in your 401k plan, part of the reason you have $1 million saved is in the back of your mind, you just kind of put that away, right? So it's not really there. It's not providing for your financial security today. It's that large income that you have coming in, maybe not having as much or any debt at all, so you have a lot of discretionary income, and that provides a lot of financial security. But now you're faced with a world where that income is going away, and you don't know where this retirement income is going to come from. You probably don't really know exactly how much you're going to get from Social Security. If you're a married couple, how much is your spouse going to get from Social Security? If you don't have a pension, now the rest of that income is going to have to come from your savings. And putting money into your savings is different than taking money out. So many people on the doorsteps of retirement don't have a clear action plan of how you're going to take money out of these savings vehicles that you work so hard to put money into to furnish this lifestyle. So when you're working, right, you get up, you go to work, you get paid by the employer. It's a bigger amount than what you probably ever had. So there's financial security, but now you're faced with letting that go and supplying that lifestyle income from these other sources that you have, which, by the way, you've never had to do that before.
Yeah, and when there's a big pot of money that you've put in your 401k, it's tied to the market, right? So that can fluctuate. Also, now all of a sudden you've retired, there's a big pot of money. You're staring at the pot of money, let's say figuratively. Obviously, you're not literally. I wish you could stare at a big pot of money. That'd be kind of fun. But you're staring at your statement going, well, how much should I take each month from this? Where does the money go? I know I can take it out without penalty. I could roll it in some other investments. Do I keep it in the market? Do I get... you have choices, and I think the choices can lead to the fear.
Yeah, choices, because these are never choices you've had to make before, and it's hard to really understand the long-term implications of some of these choices. Just going into that question right there, how do you take money out of your 401k plan or IRA to furnish the lifestyle? How long is that money going to last? How much should you be taking out to make sure that you don't run out of money before you run out of time? And then to your point, Molly, with the market fluctuations, most people's 401ks or IRAs are invested in the market, which is constantly going up and going down. Going up is fine, but going down increases the blood pressure,
right?
Especially when you're taking money out of it. So all of this just thrown into a big old pot, and it's boiling up, and it's called anxiety stew.
And one thing that's not going down are expenses. As we start to think about the impact that inflation is having on trying to sustain the same type of lifestyle that you're used to, a lot of people identified in this study, and a lot of people that we meet with on a regular basis say, you know, I know what it takes to my cost of living these days, but how about 10 years from now? How about 20 years from now? And the inflation can have a huge impact on that. So everyone's thinking, hey, I've got limited funds that are going to be available to me. I don't have a lot of guaranteed income streams. Social Security maybe isn't as much as I thought it would be or hoped it would be. And now we've got increasing costs over time. And that's where I think people feel that pinch of, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
And This study showed that 40% of people don't know what they're going to take from Social Security. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But do you guys find when you sit down with people and you run this whole Social Security analysis about all of their options, and then you kind of get to what they're going to get per month from Social Security, is it usually less than they think it's going to be?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of people in the last 5 to 10 years as they're headed towards retirement have started to pull some numbers. They've logged into ssa.gov. They've looked up kind of what it is that is estimated going to be there for them. And I feel like most people have a pretty good sense of what it's going to be. I think as you look through the study, the younger population are the ones who are saying, I have no idea what Social Security is going to be, not just if it continued to play out like it will, but what kind of cuts could be anticipated somewhere down the road.
Going back to the study, the most frightening aspects of retirement, 73% of people, so I'm guessing you check more than one aspect of retirement that frightens you clearly, because the first one was 87% of people and talking about didn't have enough money to retire. 73% of people feared losing employment-based healthcare benefits and medical insurance.
One of the biggest reasons for that is because of the cost of the open market healthcare. I mean, these employer-based healthcare plans have a substantial discount. Most of them, especially large group employer plans, have a substantial discount compared to that. So if you're working for a large employer and you're paying $500 a month, some people are lucky enough not to pay anything for their group health coverage, and then you want to retire at 63, and now you're faced with $1,200 a month, $2,400 a month maybe for a couple. That is a substantial difference. And going back to the scarcity feeling of your investable assets, you only have so much. You're not adding to those anymore once you retire. In fact, you're taking away, and you're seeing all of this money that's otherwise discretionary, available for discretionary spend, go towards health care, which you have not been accustomed to paying that much. And that is why it's such a scary proposition to transition to retirement and have to pay for something that otherwise will cost you little to nothing when you're working.
And Medicare eligibility is coming, which is a nice thing. That's a good thing. But if you really want to retire at 63, I have to think that the mindset too is I don't want to blow all my money in the first couple of years. I could have 20 or 30 years left. So there's that longevity proposition that really comes into play.
The unknown of how long are you going to live? How long are you going to live? Nobody really knows. And a lot of people are concerned about the healthcare costs. Speaking of healthcare, a lot of people in the latter years of their life are spend a lot more money on healthcare than they do anything else, whether it's because they need long-term care or assisted living, or just because the cost of healthcare typically increases much more than traditional inflationary costs. So there's that concern because you're trying to figure out how you're going to afford a lifestyle during the go-go years of your retirement, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I got to save some. I got to save some to prepare for the no-go years where it could cost you even more than it costs you now.
And the third fear, this one's really interesting, guys. The third biggest fear that people kind of named in the study was not keeping mentally active. They apparently feel like if they retire, they're not going to stay mentally active. Clint, is this a concern that you hear from people in the 15-minute checkup calls and visits?
Absolutely. We see a lot of people that have questions about what am I going to do in retirement? As people have a traditional career and they're in the working years, they have ways to stay engaged, they have ways to have purpose, and then that becomes something that is a new unknown they have to figure out. And so we do definitely see a lot of questions and concerns and have discussions related to that in our 15-minute checkup calls and in our different visits. One thing that we will oftentimes see people walk through the process of is maybe I have enough financially to be able to retire, but from an emotional standpoint, am I really ready for this? Am I really ready for that shift, that lifestyle change? And what's that look like? I was in a visit just last week with someone, and they had never really thought about that. They're 1.5 to 2 years away from retirement, and that was a question. What's retirement lifestyle look like for you? And they really had never thought about it. And so we did a little brainstorming right then and there, just kind of, hey, walk through, what does it look like? What do you enjoy doing? If you had all the time in the world, what might you do? And eventually we landed on motorcycle riding. He doesn't have a motorcycle, but he's thinking about buying one.
Has he ever had a motorcycle?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's thinking about buying one. Kind of a low-cost transportation, can see the country and do some of that traveling like a lot of people like to do in retirement. But that's something that I feel like kind of was a revelatory fact that he came up with on the fly. And then we started to talk about, okay, what does that look like?
That makes for an amazing conversation. That's one of the things I really enjoy about the conversations we have is, a lot of people think that we're retirement planners, so we're just going to talk about the financials, the Social Security and the Medicare and the investments. But really, where I find a lot of joy in our conversations is trying to figure out a financial way to make that what you just talked about, Clint, happen. And that's part of his lifestyle plan. That you probably, when you were talking about that was probably an anxiety point of his because he hadn't really sorted that out or put a lot of thought into it. But you probably saw a big old smile on his face as the wheels were turning. He was like, I might want to go back riding a motorcycle because he's envisioned a time in his life where that he really got enjoyment out of it and he kind of felt free and freedom. And now he has a lot more time that he can explore the United States on a bike. But that's enjoyable to help somebody kind of through that lifestyle piece and get to live what their retirement vision is through their eyes. That's pretty cool.
And that really speaks to the psychology of what you do a little bit too. Neither one of you are sitting here saying you have like a psychology background, and I don't want to downplay what psychologists, the hard work they do, but the mental aspect, I guess, of what you do. But what is neat about the story you told too, Clint, is that so you start talking about the motorcycle, and then the plan shows how they can afford the motorcycle. So it's not just a fluffy conversation about motorcycles, and he walks away and goes, it files that away in the maybe drawer. You can actually say, hey, let's talk about it right now. Let's talk about the cost of a motorcycle. Let's talk about how you're going to afford the motorcycle, and let's build this into the short-term part of your customized retirement plan.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the most efficient way that we can deliver you the funds needed for the motorcycle? And then what is that expense going to be if you want to spend 2 months every summer traveling the country? And those are some of the things that start to drive, here's what my lifestyle expenses are going to be in retirement. And then, as we mentioned earlier, how do we build that income plan to help deliver those expenses and that lifestyle that you're seeking in retirement?
It's almost like permission to spend, right? So for some people, they've been in such a saving mode, and to have somebody who's outside, a professional, go, no, there's permission to spend right here, and you'll still be okay to pay taxes, pay your mortgage, do all the other things.
I was in a visit a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about something. I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but after that part of the conversation concluded, the individual she said to me, she goes, I bet you have that same conversation over and over and over. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, actually, if I had to push repeat on any conversation, it is that exact piece of the conversation right there where people are afraid to spend. They have enough saved to support the lifestyle that they say they want to have, but they're just afraid to spend. So if there's any repeat conversation, it's that. You can spend more if you want to. You can spend X amount on a monthly or annual basis and still be okay. But I think, most of the people a lot of the families that we work with, they're just accustomed to saving. They're just accustomed to saving. They put money away. They have a certain lifestyle, and they're saving all this money for retirement. But then they get into retirement, and then there's all these other what-ifs down the line that nobody can accurately predict, and they're just afraid to take money out. So that is part of that transitional process. It's also probably one of the biggest benefits of creating the retirement plans that we create is they get to see it. They get to see what happens if I take $20,000 out to buy this passion project of mine, like a motorcycle, and I can go live the lifestyle that I want to in the go-go years. What does that do long term? Everybody, if you have $1 million IRA and you take $20,000 out, you know what that does to you short term, right? Now instead of $1 million, you got $20,000 less, and you have to pay taxes on that. But what are the real implications 10 years from now? What are the real implications 20 years from now? That's much harder to discern off the cuff, and that's where the power of the visuals of that plan really come into play. You have $20,000 less today. Here's what it does to you 10 years from now. Look, Mr. Jones, you can do that. Go do that. We encourage you to do that. In fact, we'll help you. Can we send you this money tomorrow? Right, and then go shopping for your motorcycle and enjoy some of this money, because one of the biggest questions in that vein, one of the biggest questions that a lot of people eventually have to answer is how much is enough? How much money is enough? Because when you pass, whatever is left over is going to go to somebody besides you. And all of that money that's left over was not there to support you for your lifestyle ambitions in retirement. Now, a lot of our families that we work with, they have a expectation that they want to leave some kind of legacy to children or grandchildren, but how much is enough? Do you want to leave 500,000? Do you want to leave $1 million? How much is too much, right? And then there's that balance, and I think the planning and a lot of the conversations we have over and over and over are how much is enough.
That really leads into that question too of the Medicare eligibility. I think a lot of people get it in their mind, I've got to wait till 65 to retire. But if you at least sit down with a professional and look at it, maybe at 62, you're really itching to retire, or you want to go part-time, or you want to really explore the career that would be more fun for you. Well, at least if you have a conversation, maybe the plan shows they can't. Maybe they have to wait till Medicare eligibility. But I know that both of you have had times where you've written out a plan for someone, helped them put together a comprehensive plan, and they didn't have to wait till they're Medicare eligible. Those are fun conversations.
Yeah, I had a good one just a couple of weeks ago where that was the exact conversation. They thought, hey, I should wait until 65, then I know I can go on and get that Medicare eligibility. And the plan basically is we built that and started to show, hey, the truth is that you can retire anytime. And they were just completely blown away. I mean, a very emotional moment when they could start to see, hey, I could retire sooner. And then immediately the next question was, but what do I do about healthcare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, that's where Anna Marie's going to come in, and she's going to help you identify how we can provide for that gap healthcare need that you have before you get to Medicare eligibility.
Well, that's such a powerful part of that conversation and planning process, where if we can really break it down and say, you are financially ready to retire at age 63, but what about healthcare? Okay, so let's look at what your healthcare costs would be over the next 2 years prior to Medicare. You can be on COBRA insurance for the next 18 months. So what is the cost of your COBRA insurance? Okay, it's $600 a month. So $600 a month for the next 18 months. And then you have 6 months prior to Medicare. Based on our reasonable expectations right now, it might cost you $1,200 a month for that 6 months. So we add all that up and we say, you could retire 2 years earlier than you anticipated. You're really tired of doing what you're doing. You want the freedom, flexibility that retirement will provide you. So 2 years earlier, or you can work for 2 years and save $25,000 on healthcare. And those are just the facts in this particular case. Now, this is hypothetical, of course.
Right.
But in this particular, those are the facts. So you can use that information and say, what's more important to you, 2 years extra in retirement or $25,000? And you can do what you want with that information, but at least you have that information to use to make an informed decision, and you can rest easy with either of those decisions that you make.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about how closely being scared of something and not knowing about something are tied together, and how sometimes, obviously, I hope you never know what it's like to fall into quicksand, and I hope you never know what it's like for a creepy killer to come out of the corn, and I hope that you never get attacked by a clown that comes out of a grate, and I hope I never fall off of a ski lift in a mountain in Canada. But none of us know what that feels like. We don't know what those fears, that's why we're scared of them. Clearly they would all hurt.
I'm certain it would be bad with all of those.
It would all be bad. But what you do on a real more tangible and practical level is when you develop a plan for someone, I'm not scared anymore. Even if I don't like the answers, at least I know. I don't have a fear of, because I have answers. It's just so closely tied together.
Yeah, I mean, you have that information, and information is powerful. And whether the information supports your decision the way you want to go or not, let's say it doesn't. Let's say that at 63, you're not financially ready to retire. Well, here's some action steps that you can take to put yourself in a better position. So maybe you don't still have to wait till 65. Maybe you can do it at 63 and 6 months. And then you have COBRA all the way till 65. Or maybe you can do it at 64, or maybe it is 65, right? But either way, you have that information to make the best decision that you can, and you have action steps that you can take to improve what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
And I have to imagine someone listening is going, okay, Loren, that's all well and good if you have $7 million or $5 million or whatever the thought process is for the ultra wealthy. But I know you've both seen this happen with people that have worked, middle class jobs or been very good savers. We're not talking about the ultra wealthy always who can retire at age 63.
No, we're not. But I could tell you, in working with our higher net worth families, they have very similar concerns and fears too. So just because they have $7 million in their 401k plan and you have $500,000 or $1 million in your 401k plan, it doesn't mean that you don't think about the same things. It doesn't mean that the same things are not keeping you up late at night. There's still a lot of uncertainty in each and every person's life. And until you put together that comprehensive written retirement plan that is customized to what you want your retirement lifestyle to look like and the types of resources you have to fund that retirement lifestyle, there is going to continue to be a ton of uncertainty, which is going to lend to that fear. So no matter whether you have $10 million saved or you have $500,000 saved, that plan is a way to squash that uncertainty and that fear that will lend you to having a lot better of a time in the transition to one of the most important times of your life.
Well, we talk about kind of this knowledge easing fear, and Clint, the online Journey to Retirement workshop is a great way to start getting the questions in your mind and some of the answers to the questions that you have about retirement.
Yeah, and similar to what Loren said, it's the value of a customized plan. It's individual to you, so we're not looking at somebody else, your neighbor, your coworker, because really your situation is different. Your needs are different. Your lifestyle is going to look different. And so in the Journey to Retirement workshop, you have the opportunity to follow a hypothetical couple through retirement and see some of the things that are present in their life. And that's where it goes to, hey, this is an example, and you can take from it what you will. And what we find is a lot of people can pick out, hey, here's 2 big things that are takeaways that directly apply to my life. A couple of these things don't, but then it also opens the door to understanding these are the other things I need to figure out. What does this mean to me?
It also gives you a clear idea of what a customized plan is. We've touched on it today, but the Journey to Retirement workshop really goes deep in there.
There's 6 components that should be involved in everybody's retirement plan. We cover all 6 of those in the Journey to Retirement workshop. Some we cover more in depth, like take the tax planning component as an example. We give you actual strategies that our hypothetical couple, John and Sue, implement within their overall retirement plan. So whether it's the tax planning piece or the how do they develop their income, you will be able to relate most likely to the questions that they're trying to answer and take specific strategies out of that online workshop to implement into your retirement plan.
So take the fear out of retirement. Start seeing what a retirement plan is all about by going to retirewithmerkle.com. That's MERKLE. And right there, you can sign up for the online Journey to Retirement workshop. You can choose a time and a date that works for you. You'll see the retirement planners at the workshop. Then you can even ask questions at the end of the workshop. And it's a really great experience and a good way to get started taking the fear out of retirement.
Which for a lot of people is the hardest thing to do about retirement planning is what is a retirement plan. In that online workshop, you will discover what a retirement plan is, but then how do you get started? Because of the unknowns, the vastness of what goes into a retirement plan, most people choose inertia, and if you haven't started a retirement plan or the retirement planning process, that means you're not going to. So this can help you with that productive inertia of getting started with your retirement plan.
Yeah, don't wait till something else forces you into retirement, like a downsizing at work or your health. It's good to get ahead of it now so you can really be in control.
There's not a better time to get started than right now. And if you have your customized plan and you want to retire 2 years from now and 18 months goes by and you decide 2 years from now actually is too early to retire, well, at least you're financially ready and you can see that and you can push your retirement out. If somebody else decides for you or you decide you want to retire a year from now, you have that plan in place and you know you can do it, it's going to make that transition a whole lot easier.
Again, that website is retirewithmerkle.com. There is a link in the show notes. It's a complimentary online Journey to Retirement workshop. Choose a time and date that works for you, then get comfortable. Sit back and start learning about all of the aspects of retirement. Or you can keep listening to this podcast. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for listening. Merkle Retirement Planning is an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of investments and insurance products to custom suit their goals and objectives. Any information discussed in these shows is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, tax, or legal advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Elite Retirement Planning LLC. Insurance services are offered through MRP Insurance LLC.
I am.
I can probably get it. Because I thought these nails, I can grab it.
Oh, I don't know. This is definitely not
you want me to try to
what
grab it
frightens
for
you.
This-
Not at all. I do this all the time on my own eyes. You're okay.
This is what frightens
Okay, it's
me.
right there, Loren.
This
Yeah.
is gonna make it hard
Right
for
there.
me to sleep.
Right there.
Oh,
Okay,
this is
it is in there.
cringeworthy.
It is in there. Do you want me to get it? I don't want to hurt you.
No.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's
Is it in the right place?
No, it's folded up in the corner of your eye. So what I want you to do when you open, I want you to look at your nose, and that's gonna bring it as far out from me as you can. Okay. Now look at your nose. Yep, it's right here.
can't watch that.
Shoot, Loren. There it is.
Ooh.
Okay.
I felt it.
Yep, it came out.
There it is.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So what you were?
That's not the way to put
That's
it
not normal.
That's like.
I don't have any
How did you
contact
not
solution.
know that was what it is?
Loren, that was probably uncomfortable. Yeah, you didn't have it on right.
Well,
That tells me this one's on right.
Yeah,
I believe
good.
so.
I didn't feel
Your
this
one-
one.
I believe
I haven't
so.
felt this one all day. This
50%.
one.
So that was uncomfortable. That's wrong. Yeah. So you
Well.
could toss out. You could rinse it out and try to put it on.
No.
Just
I'll
toss
just
it.
wear one.
Yeah.
Because I have an